Christian Nicolussi. How are you, mate? Still up in Brisbane?
I still am, Michael, yes. I've got Mark
I left
Levy
you
on
last night.
You did? Why did you go home early?
Well, I was on an early flight. I was a smart one, and I thought you were going to probably disgrace yourself. So I decided to leave.
Yes.
And get a good night's sleep. Was I right?
Yeah, well, it's debatable. I decided to go out for a few beers, as you do. The Caxton Street, went to the Caxton Hotel. Even though Queensland lost, a lot of the locals were in a very good mood. And as I was saying to you earlier off air, that I watched a couple having a bit of a party pash in one corner. But the bloke was so drunk, I'm pretty sure he fell asleep mid-snog. You had to see it. Either she was a really bad kisser or he was just really drunk.
Yeah,
but it was awful scenes. Great. God bless Queensland.
Yes. Well, what a performance yesterday from the Blues, Nico. Look, to be fair, it wasn't the greatest spectacle. We'll get to that a bit later, but they did do enough to get the 1-0 lead heading into game 2 in Perth. What'd you take from the match?
Yeah, it was 18-6, but it could have easily been 40 to 50 to 6. So they left so many points out there. There's just too much talent across that New South Wales team. You think Stephen Crichton and Zach Lomax, those two on the right alone, it's frightening to think if they can stay fit, they're a right-edge combination for the next 4, 5, 6 years. And they're just big bodies. Then you think of Payne Haas, he was unreal. Isaiah Yeo in that first half just kept making metres up the middle. Latrell Mitchell, I know he had a great game defensively, but that pass, I kept watching the replay of that pass for Brian Tortle this morning. I still can't believe how he did it. It was unbelievable. But just the points out there, Michael, like they could have kept going. They left so many points out there. It's frightening to think how good this team can be.
No, 18-6 didn't reflect how dominant they were. And to be honest, they could have won by 30 or 40. Look, we were out there and I made the comment to you. I felt like there was just something missing. It didn't feel like Origin normally felt. The game wasn't an Origin caliber game. I know there's been a high standard over the last few years, but it just didn't feel like it lived up to the hype of what an Origin game is. And even after the game, I think Andrew John said it wasn't a genuine Origin game. Cameron Smith said it didn't feel like one, and Joey said it didn't feel that way for whatever reason. The intensity and the physical side of an Origin game, it was like a good club game. Did it feel that way to you, or are we sort of spoiled that we get to go to so many of these games that we sort of feel like, you know, maybe the excitement wears off after a while, but to me, it just didn't feel the same.
I'm a bit biased. I love Origin. I love sitting there, especially at Suncorp Stadium, when they flash the faces onto the big screen before kick-off, and you wait there, you see Liam Martin get booed, you see Spencer Leniu get booed. They even boo Payne Haas, which is always enjoyable. You're right, though. It was a bit flat last night. Queensland, it's almost like some of the fans turn up expecting New South Wales to win. I know they gave away a couple of penalties early. They're on the back foot, but it was very quiet. I mean, even when Queensland were trying to get back into the game, it didn't feel like a typical Origin experience. I can't put my finger on it.
Yeah, I think maybe even the build-up, to be fair, was flat. I know that people say traditionally game one in the lead-up because we haven't had any fireworks or any drama in a game leading up to it. So it's generally flat. Two teams are sort of eyeing each other out. But even going into Perth, like there were no storylines out of that. There was no real drama. Everyone was pretty tame after the game. So I know that the NRL will be delighted with the television ratings and Channel 9 will be delighted with the number of viewers. But, yeah, I just felt like something was missing this time around. But anyway.
You're right. Even Isaiah Yeo, Michael, I think he was there at the captain's run saying, listen, the players always kept their trap shut going into that first game. They don't want to give the opposition ammunition, and it's up to the media. We do a good job trying to pump up this state of Origin rivalry. The Spencer Leniu, the booing campaign, that was the storyline that got a lot of sort of headlines in the lead up to that game. But even when Spencer came on, I'm pretty sure he came on at the half-hour mark after Brian Tortle scored. Queensland didn't do much. I think his first carry, you could barely hear the boos.
Well, it was interesting. I saw Spencer because he came onto the field and he lined up for the kickoff where the ball had been going. And when I don't know if it was deliberate or not, but Queensland kicked the other way, away from Spencer Leniu.
It was deliberate.
He
spotted
was
him.
Furious. He was ready to go, Spencer Leniu. I would have loved to have seen it, but Queensland, they catted out of that one. I just talking about Payne Haas a little bit earlier. Him and Stephen Crichton came into the game under an injury cloud. How you were in the sheds, I saw you there. I might have seen you having a beer after it. That's okay.
No, I didn't. The boss listens to this. Please don't say that.
Sorry.
We're live. Go back and cut that part out.
It was a Powerade.
Yes, that's right.
With that Powerade, you obviously spoke to a lot of people in the shed.
Yes.
How bad was Stephen Crichton and Payne Haas leading into it? Were they a chance of not playing?
Well, Payne Haas, we wrote the story this morning. It's up online on the Herald website. Nathan Gibbs, the club doctor, he basically said to Madge, listen, he's got a grade 2 quad tear. Usually 2 weeks at best to get him back on the field. They had to get him back in 10 days. And they said to Michael Maguire, the Brisbane coach, listen, Madge, we're going to try and get him back in 10 days. 2 weeks is pushing it as is. Are you going to be comfortable if we can do this? And Madge, selflessly, he knows Brisbane are struggling at the moment and he wants Payne Haas fit. But he said, listen, do what you can. I trust you guys. If you can get him back on the field, you need him. You're going to win. Payne Haas did nothing. He almost did absolutely nothing in terms of the field sessions. He did a few sort of light gallops up and down the sideline on Tuesday, Wednesday, even Saturday. Saturday out at Penrith, we thought this was going to be the main session. He rejoins the group and gets through training, but again, he did nothing. So to basically do nothing all week and then come out and play the way he did, it was truly phenomenal. He is the best front rower in the game right now. He could become the greatest front rower we've ever seen.
I'm not the I'm not the biggest Madge fan, but that what you told me there and his decision to allow Payne Haas, because most coaches in that situation wouldn't let their player go under such an injury cloud, given the scrutiny that he's under as Broncos coach at the moment and the way the team is playing. For him to just give him the green light and to give New South Wales their blessing, I feel like that was a great gesture from Madge. It shows you how much the team means to him and what he did last year, and he hasn't just moved on and said stuff it.
But even Payne Haas, Michael, him talking about the love for the Blues jersey, sometimes you think, okay, it's a throwaway line. Yeah, I do it for the state, but something's changed in the last couple of years. That there really is a true belief. I know this is going to sound corny. I'm sitting in Queensland. I can almost see the eyebrows being raised now, but there's a lot of love for this Sky Blues jersey. Something's happened. I don't know how it's come about, but Payne Haas didn't want to miss this game. I mean, he's paid by the Broncos to play good football there, but he was never going to miss this game, and thank God he didn't.
Nathan Cleary. He probably wasn't one of his better games. Still everyone waiting for him to have that breakout Origin game.
Yes.
The combination with Mitchell, a little bit clunky. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't what we sort of thought it would be.
Yeah.
The kicking game of Nathan was a bit off.
Yep.
What did you make of the way they combined? Did they benefit from Queensland being so ordinary?
Yeah, I thought they were good. They're always going to take time. They're always going to need time. They're two great players. I thought Nathan Cleary, I used the analogy, it was almost a club length short. He had the pitching wedge out most all night. He should have had the 8 or 9 iron. Everything went short the whole night. I don't know why. It's probably why he reverted to his running game in the end, because the right boot just simply wasn't working. But they're going to get better. I mean, they got their team downfield. They kicked into the corners. I mean, they'll improve. I mean, Nathan Cleary is the best player in the game. He's entitled to be he's 8 out of 10s. Most other players 10s.
Yeah. What did you make of, I think Joey in commentary was talking about the ball. Maybe they were different.
Yes.
A lot of goal kickers missing. I think New South Wales were 1 from 4. Queensland might have been 1 from 2. I can't remember exactly the stats.
Nathan 1 from 4. Far out. When was the last time Nathan went 1 from 4?
It's I remember in England, actually, at the World Cup in 2022, they talked about the balls being different. I still remember the headline, the small balls or something. There was a story with Nathan Cleary. And I don't know if you got to ask anyone in the sheds, but Joey thought that the ball sounded different. It may have been different. Now it's a different ball to what they use in club football. Same supplier, but obviously the paint on it, whatever it is, maybe it felt different. Did you get any indication from New South Wales that it was?
No, I didn't. I just thought of a story. This is going back years ago. They used to have a women in league round. And I remember Jamie Soward complaining about the balls. He thought the balls may have been a little bit lighter. So I remember going out to Sydney Uni. We went to the physics department and we had to do a whole heap of tests where we're dropping the women in league round ball compared to the normal Steeden. Yeah. And I think it came back, it was fractionally lighter. So whether the lighter ball travels a bit funnier, maybe it's the Queensland air, I'm not sure.
It was the aroma of 4X in the air.
Oh, yes.
The try scorers, Lomax, he was superb. We know he didn't have a massive lead up into that game. He's been injured. To'o's been injured. The talking point, though, probably the biggest drama out of the game was the decision from the bunker to send Brian To'o to the bin.
Yeah.
Now, I thought it was a harsh call.
Yeah.
I thought Brian To'o, because the siren was about to sound for half time, he went up with one hand, I think originally intention to hit it out or something.
Yeah.
And then it ended with him putting his hand on the back of Xavier Coates.
Yeah.
I'm okay with penalty, but to send him to the sin bin for that,
yeah, I thought it was fair, and I think Billy summed it up well. It was never going to be a penalty try because Xavier Coates never got his hands on the ball, but Brian did look like he grabbed him in the air, and you simply can't do it. Thankfully, it didn't have a direct impact on the final result. It would have been hell to pay if Queensland come back and won the game, but that was the right call. I mean, Brian Tor, you're right. You bring up Brian Tor. That's the other two players we forgot about. We mentioned Payne Haas and Stephen Crichton going into the game with injury concerns, but the two wingers, Zach Lomax and Brian Tor, they both had one game coming back from injury. The amount of work they got through, that was my biggest concern, how they were going to sort of hold up going to that game second up, but again, they just got through a mountain of work. Just the New South Wales back line at the moment, outstanding.
I was actually writing just before halftime, before that incident. I was sending a part through to the blog about how New South Wales were getting the rub of the green in the first half with Cherry Evans in the ruck. Remember that there? I felt like I actually started writing that New South Wales' concern is there going to be some levelers in the second half. And just as I was about to send that happen, I felt like Queensland may have been on the wrong end of a few of them. Maybe perhaps that went into the decision to send him to the bin. But either way, it didn't make a difference in the end. New South Wales too good.
I didn't see you writing that. I thought you were too busy obsessing about the spider cam. What happened with the spider cam?
Oh, what about spider cam? Didn't you see it dangling down for a while?
Yes.
It broke the $100,000 investment.
Yes.
And there were concerns from the NRL that if it didn't repair itself or they couldn't get it moving, because it was hovering at a distance that you could literally kick the ball straight into it. And it would have been an absolute disaster if the game got brought to a halt because of ball at spider cam. And the NRL, I think, were thinking, do we have to actually call this game to a halt to try and repair it or get it off the field? In the end, they got it working at halftime. It didn't make a difference, but there were some nervous moments. I think there was a kick there in the first half where it went so close to hitting it. So I don't know if anyone noticed that at home, but
thank God Nathan Cleary's boot wasn't working. Imagine it was working. Far out. Then we would have had a proper storyline.
It would have been a great story, almost as good as Waddy Holmwood all those years ago. Nico, looking at Queensland, Robert Toya, he was exceptional. He was exceptional for them defensively and attack. I know there weren't many bright spots for Queensland, but his debut, he justified his selection when most people didn't raise eyebrows, but was surprised that he was getting picked after 10 games in the NRL in the debut season. Yeah,
he did well, and we spoke about it last week, what a daunting challenge it was going to be. Origin debut after 10 or 11 NRL games, trying to stop Latrell, but he didn't look out of place. Him and Jeremiah Nanai, probably the two standout Queenslanders, but I am worried about Queensland. I don't know where their points are going to come from. They're going to do well to avoid a hammering in Perth where their record's been pretty abysmal the previous two times we've gone over there. I think it's 82-18, a combined scoreline with New South Wales in Perth. But they lose 2-0 over there, then we go back to Sydney. It could be anything. It's frightening. But you're right. Rob Toya, he was a bright spot. Well done to the young
man. I know you're a DCE man, even though you stirred the pot in the lead up to the game with that photo of him and Ashley Klein at Brookvale.
What a sensational photo. Cheeky.
I really like DCE, but you can't help but wonder, is Father Time catching up to him? Is he still the right option for Queensland? I don't know the answer, but it's definitely a question. And he even admitted it himself in the press conference that when you perform the way that the Queensland did, you open yourself up to those questions.
Yeah. I know Joey came out and said it's time to pull the trigger and put Tom Dearden in there, but he's your captain. He's been there time and again. He's your main kicker. He wasn't alone last night. He wasn't great, but he had plenty of mates that didn't help him out. Cameron Munster, Harry Grant, KP, the spine, they just didn't fire. And if they're not firing, DCE can't do his job. He's the glue in that team. I know Billy loves him. I think he'll be there in Perth. If they are to lose over there, then I think you're entitled to ask questions with the series over. Do they look to the future? But as it stands, DCE, he wasn't great, but like I said, he had a lot of friends there that just didn't aim up.
Yeah. I think with DCE, right, and you're right, he wasn't alone, but the pressure of what's going on in the last 10
with the
weeks
contract.
of his career, his contract, do you think it's starting to weigh down on him?
Oh, it must be. I mean, he started well, but in Clubland at the moment, I mean, they've got their issues with Tom Trbojevic being injured. Things haven't been going rosy. Jake Trbojevic has been out with concussion. Manly started the year well. I remember that first game in round one against North Queensland. They looked like world beaters. We were talking them up as premiership contenders. Ever since news came out that Daly wasn't going to be at Manly beyond this year, his form has dipped. And now, whether it's weighing on his mind, you'd like to think he's been around long enough, he's professional enough to get on and do the job. It was only a few weeks ago, I think they beat Penrith, and he completely outplayed Nathan Cleary. So his form hasn't completely gone off a cliff. But you'd like to think if he can get his future sorted, that's just one thing off his mind. If he's going to sign with the Roosters, sign with the Roosters. If he's going to sign with the Dolphins, sign with the Dolphins. If you're going to retire, retire. But he needs to get that sorted in his life. But as it stands, in terms of game 2, sticking with Daly Cherry Evans, I think it's really a no-brainer.
It'd be very un-Queensland-like, though, if they did drop him. Like, they always talk about loyalty. He's been there. He's the captain. Like, it would be such an un-Queensland move for them to drop their main man.
Yep. If you were to drop him, though, what happens? Do you play Tom Dearden at 7? Is Reece Walsh back? And do you play Reece Walsh off the bench? Do you even stick with Kalen Ponga at fullback? I mean, if Reece Walsh is fit, you just need that little bit of a spark. But to tell you the truth, Michael, it's Queensland. Who cares?
No,
let's just hope we win 3-0.
I don't think it matters who they bring into the team, to be honest with you. New South Wales should win that series, and they should win it 3-0 with the players they have available.
Yes, correct.
And the scary thing is, yes, Queensland was so bad, but New South Wales, they weren't that good. They weren't. And I'm not having a crack at them. Like, I'm happy for Laurie Daly, but it was clunky.
Yeah.
There were so many errors, and everyone spoke about how they never really got out of first gear. They just sort of felt like it looked like they were conservative, and it was a dry track. They had no reason to do so. I feel like they played within themselves, and there's so much potential to go to Perth and put a scoreline on them.
The other point I forgot about Daly Cherry Evans, Payne Haas. Again, we spoke about him, how phenomenal he was. But he made a point of getting out a little bit wider last night and was terrorising poor old Daly and Cameron Munster. If you're 36 years of age, seeing a 25-year-old Payne Haas running at you with a full head of steam, that can't be pleasant. Far out. That must be when Father Time is catching up with you.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting heading into Perth the way this one plays out. Plenty of selection dramas. Nico, as always, we.
Hang on, Michael.
What?
State of Origin. Talking about Perth. State of Origin wasn't even the highlight this week. The highlight was Monday night. Now, please, what happened with you and Gus? Son, please tell me what happened.
What do you want to know?
I'll tell you what, you've got a lot of feedback, and well done to you, firstly, for asking the hard questions of Gus. It couldn't have been too pleasant. Of course, I'm 100% footy. Can you tell me what's happened and what's the feedback been like since?
Oh, look, it's obviously blown up because of the exchange that we had. But, if any other journo was sitting there, I'm sure everyone would be in that same situation where you have to ask those questions. Like, I thought about it before I went on air, and I felt if I didn't do it, I'd be embarrassing myself if I didn't ask the questions because, people that I know on social media, everyone in the lead up to that wanted to see Phil Gould ask the questions about what he'd previously said. Now, if I didn't do it, I would have been the laughing stock. And it's not personal. I'm not trying to, nor do I think that Gus did anything wrong in that situation. If I was in the same situation, I would say whatever it took to make sure Lachlan Galvin ended up at my football club. We as journos, I wrote this yesterday in the Sydney Morning Herald in my column, that is our role. I'm only sitting there because I have a job to do to ask those questions. Mate, I have nothing but respect for Gus. As I said in that column, I grew up idolising him, rushing home from training to record those Origin final words and memorising them and going to school and talking to my mates about them. Like that is why I'm involved in rugby league media. It's why I wanted to be part of it. And I still sit there and think, what am I doing on this panel? Sitting next to Cameron Smith, Paul Gallen, Phil Gould, and the great James Bracey. I still don't feel like I belong there. The only reason I am there is because of my job, and I would have been doing my job and the industry a disservice if I didn't ask the tough questions. So
it couldn't have been easy though, Michael. I mean, he's a giant of the game, Phil Gould, and being on live TV, it took some big kahunas, mate, to stand up to him.
No, I appreciate. Well, no, it's not easy, and it's not easy because you know that it's going to be uncomfortable, and whether Gus likes me or not, this is the thing. I have respect for Gus. He has a job to do and I have a job to do. I stopped when I first started. Yeah, you want to be friends with everyone. But that feeling went a long time ago. I realized that I'm not going to be friends with everyone. If I'm going to do my job properly, then you're going to have people who don't like you or disagree with you. And that's just not just Gus. There are other people, like with what happened with Isaac and Mitchell a couple of weeks ago. You can't please everyone. If you're doing your job properly, you can't please everyone. And the day that I became okay with not being friends with everyone, I felt like I sort of felt comfortable in my own shoes and doing my job as a journo. So
we're not friends. We're just colleagues.
Well, you just want to be everyone's friend. I've seen what you're like.
You're going very well, Michael. So you've upset Isaac last week. You've upset Gus this week. things happen in threes. Who's on the radar next week?
Well, hopefully I upset you and you stop annoying me in this podcast because I don't need to be grilled by you after being grilled by Gus.
Keep up the good work, son. That was the highlight of my week, closely followed by you. You get the 3 points this week. Payne-Arts, 2 points. Zach Lomax, 1.
Listen, I'm wrapping you up. So thank you for joining us on another edition of 4020. We're back for another episode in the lead up to Game 2 as the Blues look to seal the series with a win in Perth.